Welcome students to the fifth lecture of Unit 4 Requirement Analysis and Specification. In this unit, till now, we have seen requirement engineering process tasks, which were these 7. We then elaborated the elicitation phase in the requirement elicitation block, and we studied these things. Next, we went to the elaboration phase. In the elaboration phase, we studied about requirement modeling, where we are elaborating the requirements in form of drawing models or pictorial representations. We have seen a need for the model. Then we have seen domain analysis. We have seen analysis rule of thumbs. We have seen object as well as procedure oriented approaches of modeling. And we are currently on elements of model. Last time we had left from here, that is scenario based elements, in which we have already studied use cases. Okay, today we'll move on to two other different scenario based UML diagrams, that is activity and swim lane, which are complementing the use case. How? We had taken a system into consideration, that is a cardio health monitor system. In order to know more about this system, you must refer the previous lecture where I have discussed in details about what this software is particularly doing and how many features or functional requirements we are including in this software. So this is just a rough use case idea. We had these following 8 features in the software. We had 2 actors, primary as well as secondary, and a system boundary. We had seen the login and forgot password use cases in details. Today we will move on to a different diagram, which is activity and swim lane. Now, you already know that this kind of scenario based models are actually nothing but a model which is showing how you are interacting with the system. Why we are doing this? We are doing this because the software team will be able to better understand and characterize the requirements. They will be able to build it meaningfully, and they will be able to analyze the system meaningfully if they know how the system is being interacted with by the users or actors. Therefore, scenario based models are actually necessary. So what happens is, these scenario based elements are depicting how user will interact with the system and in what sequences. So use case, we have already seen what the user wants to do with the system, what features he wants in the system. Now UML activity diagram is nothing but a diagram which is supplementing the use case by providing a graphical representation of the flow of interaction within a specific scenario. So if I take an example of login, then what are the sequence of steps or what are the activities that are taking place if a user wants to log in into the system? This is depicted by the activity diagram. The next is the swim lane diagram. Swim lane diagram is useful variation of the activity diagram because it not just represents the activities, but it also indicates which actor is doing which activity. So it is a detailed representation of an activity diagram by pointing out which actor is doing which kind of activity in a specific scenario or under specific conditions. So let us see what is happening here. UML diagram that supplements a use case is called an activity diagram. It provides a graphical representation of the flow of interaction, and swim lane is nothing but it represents from start to finish, where you are knowing who is responsible for what kind of actions. Before we move on to activity diagram, let us see which are the various symbols or notations of the activity diagram, which we will be using in common. The first is the start. This is how you represent starting of an activity diagram, and this is how you end your activity diagram. This is the flow of your diagram with an arrow. This is the activity which is going to occur, and this is the decision if you are taking, if any, in your diagram. It is like your flow chart. This is nothing but join. Join means if two separate activities are taking place and you are merging them as one, you are using the join function or join representation. And if there is a single activity which is divided into two parallel tasks, then they are called forking. Okay, so these are the basic notations that you will be using. You don't have to move on into these currently. So let us move on to the activity diagram. So we already know the cardio health monitoring system. In that we have already seen the practitioner registration. So practitioner registration is something which is where you are going to register the doctor or the practitioner in your software. Now this thing can be done by either the practitioner himself, he can register himself, or the administrator can register the practitioner. These two things are going to occur. So if you want to register the practitioner, what are the things that will happen? First, you will need to log on into the system, be it administrator or be it the practitioner. They will log in into the system. After login, they will click on register practitioner. Then they will enter whatever details of the practitioner they want. Okay, if uh, they the details of that practitioner is already existing, that means he is uh, he's a practitioner who's already registered, so you don't need to register him again, you'll come out. Or if he is not a registered practitioner, you will enter the username for that particular practitioner, you will enter his newly coming in details, and you will register him and update in the database and come out of the system. So let us see how this practitioner registration will work. First, you are entering your system. You are signing up for the first time. Okay, so now you have done your sign up. You are already a registered person for using the software. Okay, now this can be either a practitioner himself or he can be an administrator. Okay, after sign up, he is going to sign in into the system. After he will sign in, his credentials are validated. So whenever he is signing, he is going to enter his username password. So this username password is checked whether it is correct or it is false. If the credentials are wrong, he is shown the sign in page again. Okay, if his user credentials, his username password are correct, then he is going down the activity flow. Now he will say that now he wants to register the practitioner, so he will check whether the practitioner is already existing or not. This is checked. If he is already registered, then he is coming out of the system. But if the practitioner is not registered, then practitioner details are entered, his registry details are entered, or his details can be edited, and all these changes are reflected in the database, and you are coming out of the system. This is how your registration of a practitioner works. Next functionality that we will see is activity diagram for forgot password. Now forgot password, how you are working. First of all, you are trying to sign in, but you are not able to sign in. Okay, so you move on to this forgot password functionality. Now you have a email me button there. If you click on the forgot password, you have email me. You are clicking on that email me button, then they are asking you for the registered email ID in your software. If that registered email ID you are entering is already there as a registered ID, then your system will generate a new password, send you that password in an encrypted form to the mail ID that you have specified. But if that mail ID is wrong, you need to enter the mail ID again. Okay, so this is the flow of your forgot password. You are entering the system, You are clicking on the email me button. Okay, then it is asking you to enter the email ID. So you are entering your registered email ID with the software. Okay, then it is checking whether your email ID is valid or not. If it is not, then you are asked to enter again. If you are already entering a valid email ID, then system is generating a new password for you. It is encrypting that password. It is sending you via the email, and it is storing the new encrypted password in the database, and it is coming out of the system. So you can see here that all these rounded rectangles we have: sign up, sign in, email me button, enters email ID, enter details, encrypts, sends, stores password, updates database. All these rounded rectangles are nothing but activities that are happening in your system. Whatever you can see in diamonds, those are the decisions or something that you are actually checking. So it has always two conditions, either yes or no. So these things are actually divided into two parts depending on the outcome of the decision that is coming. Okay, so this is your activity diagram, and the basic symbols that you are using is entering system, leaving system, decision making, and such activities. We shall now see these two diagrams with respect to swim lanes. Now here in that activity diagram, you are just seeing the activities which are occurring, but you don't know which class or which actor is doing such kind of responsibilities, who is doing these activities. So in the next swim lane diagram, you will also be able to see that who is doing this enter practitioner details, who is doing this register details or edit details, who is doing this system generates new password, who is doing this email sending, who is clicking on the email me button. So who is doing all these things, that is answered by the swim lane diagram. Okay, so first is practitioner registration. In practitioner registration, you totally have three different classes. The first class is the admin or the practitioner class. Now this is someone who is actually wanting to register the practitioner. It can be the administrator or it can be the practitioner. Either of these two can do this thing, either the admin or the practitioner. Next is the cardio health monitor controller, or you can say that the system or the software itself. So the software itself is going to check for validations if any, or decision supporting if any. And third is practitioner or admin manager. This is nothing but the database where you are actually going to store in your details. So what we are doing here is, this is nothing but your GUI part, this is nothing but your system part, and this is nothing but your backend or database part. Okay, so what is happening here is, first your admin or the practitioner is using the GUI. Through the GUI they are entering the system, they are signing up for the first time, then they are signing in. After they are signing in, you will see whether they should be allowed to sign in or not by checking their credentials. So if their username password are valid or not is checked by the software or the cardio health monitor system. So this system will say that if they are not properly entering their credentials, move them to sign in of the GUI again, or if they are successfully entering details, let them come in. Okay, next they are checking that the practitioner details that they want to enter is already existing or he is a newly coming in practitioner. So if he is already registered, then they are leaving the system, then you do have no role of the admin manager. But if your practitioner is not existing, then the user, admin or the practitioner, he is going to enter the details, he is going to register himself, and then comes the work of the admin or practitioner manager database. That database is successfully going to store all the details of the registered practitioner into the database, and it will leave the system. Okay, so this is what is happening in practitioner registration. Now we shall move on to the forgot password functionality. In the forgot password functionality, again you have a total of 3 actors. First is the admin panel himself, the practitioner himself, because they both can forget the password. Next is the cardio health monitor system, and third is the database where your password is being stored or updated password can be stored. Okay, so now you are entering the system through a GUI. So the admin or the practitioner is clicking on the email me button and they are entering the email ID. Okay, now the system is checking whether this email ID is valid or not. If this email ID is valid, then yes. If it is not valid, then they need to enter the email ID again. Okay, next, if the system is the email ID is valid, then the system will generate a new password. It will encrypt the password and the system is going to email the password. Next, after the new password is generated, after it is mailed, the new password should actually be stored in the database. So that is done by the practitioner or admin manager, where they are storing the respective passwords of the practitioner and administrator, and they are leaving the system. Okay, so this is how your Swimlane diagrams work. So today on a whole, we have seen that login password and practitioner registration, these are the two functionalities that we have seen through activity as well as Swimlane. But this is just a small demo that I have given. You are supposed to draw the activity and Swimlane diagrams for all the ellipses that you have here. So here you will have total of 8 use cases you have. So 8 activity diagrams you have to draw and 8 Swimlane diagrams you are supposed to draw in order to understand each and every use case and how the use case is interacting with the system. Okay, so always remember, as many number of use cases you have, that many number of activity and that many number of swim lanes you are supposed to design. So I have given you a hands-on. The hands-on is you can just try writing activity or swim lane diagrams for these 3 functionalities. Let me explain to you what is happening in the functionalities. First is managing tests. So managing tests is something that is to be done by the practitioner. So the practitioner is going to log on into the system using his username and password. He will move on to pressing the button of conducting a new test. But before he conducts this new test, he has to be sure that the client for whom he is conducting the test is actually registered or not. If he is not registered, you will not be able to take the test directly. You have to register the client first before taking the test. Okay, and then he can just click onto the taking test button and he can proceed with the test and come out of the system. Next is managing reports. So for report seeing or report viewing or removing a report, you need to log on to your system first. So report will be in the hand of the practitioner, not the administrator. Okay, none of these 3 is in the hand of the administrator. It is compulsory in the hand of practitioner. So the practitioner will log on into the system with his username and password. He will check for the client whether he is registered or not. Okay, if he is not registered, he won't be able to see any reports. If he is registered, he can see a detailed test history of the client. Okay, and he needs to just select the client or enter his some ID or some thing unique to that client in order to view his report. Okay, next is manage a client. Managing a client is done by the practitioner. He will log on into the system. He will be able to add a new client. He will be able to delete a client. He will be able to update the client's details, and all these changes will be reflected in the database. So I want you to try this hands-on, and you can give your answers onto Google Classroom. This is the Google Classroom code that I have provided it to you. Please submit your details along with your submission on this class code. I will be evaluating and getting back to you. So that's all for today's lecture. In the next lecture, we will be seeing the behavioral diagrams and behavior aspects of a software. Thank you.